Hello there, guys. Welcome back to Younes Talks Football. I hope all of you are doing well today. I hope you can hear me. First and foremost, apologies for the sound that was on the match review yesterday. And I promised you guys, if you haven't seen the short that I put up, or if you didn't catch me on Instagram, I did give you guys a little update telling you that I was going to give you this video. You're getting a double upload today, and this video wouldn't have been here today if it wasn't for what went down yesterday. So you're getting your extended review in this video. So I hope all of you slept well, and I hope all of you celebrated, and I hope all of you enjoyed life yesterday. And we're going to continue because Tottenham, like I said in that review that no one could hear because that quality was just as bad as your football yesterday. Thank you for the 3 points at 3-point lane, because this is what you do. You know, after all our charitable gestures to the world, yeah, Charity FC, just giving and giving and giving. It's about time that we received. You know, karma is a real thing. What goes around comes around. And what you give, you shall receive. In most cases. But you get the gist. If you give and you give, the world will reward you at some point. As long as you have patience. And as long as you have wisdom. And you know that you're not in it to receive. But if you're just doing it from a good heart, eventually you shall be rewarded. And Tottenham are always there to reward. Tottenham Hotspur are always there to give to us. At their gaff, your stadium, you should just hand over to us because we need a stadium. And we could do with a ground like yours that looks like a spaceship. But what use is it to you lot if you just keep, bottling it and throwing games away? And then whenever we come to town, we just treat it like our training ground. I think you should just hand it over. And we don't need to go through the hassle of building a new stadium. And then you guys can go to, I don't know, Hackney Marshes or something. But all jokes aside, yesterday Chelsea were absolutely phenomenal. And I want to give a big shout out to everyone that joined the shootout watch along with myself, George, and Paul Canaville. Canners himself was on the stream with us yesterday, which was absolutely fantastic. So Canners, respect to you, mate. Thank you for coming on. Much appreciated. We had a lot of fun. And what a performance to top it all off. When we were watching, even he was saying just how much energy and intensity and urgency Chelsea was showing. Individually, as well as collectively. And what was phenomenal about yesterday was we did not leave a stone unturned. What we saw yesterday was exactly how Chelsea should be playing week in, week out against everybody. And this is what I tried to go into a little bit of detail with on the watch along and on the stream with Paul Canaville, because when you and I are watching football, I'd say most people will look at it from the lens of the fan. They look at it from the lens of what we see on the TV screen, and that's it. Someone like Canners, who's played, who's been at the top level, who's played professional football, who's played at Chelsea, albeit, yes, it was in the mid-80s, but has played top-flight Premiership football, right? Will always see it from a different perspective. Any ex-footballer will see it, or current footballer, will see it from the eyes of the player. They're looking at things as how they would look at things on the pitch, not from the eye of the fan on a TV screen. Because it's two different experiences. It's two different things. And I think as long as you've played to a certain level, you'll understand and appreciate that, because footballers on the pitch will look at things, especially off the ball, that we can't catch on the screen. And what he kept alluding to was the amount of time that we weren't giving Tottenham. We were so in their face. Every single individual, no matter who got the ball, we were there instantly, which is the complete opposite of what we've been doing lately. Lately, we've always been giving that extra 1 or 2 seconds to the opponent or whoever's on the ball in order to do what they got to do, or allowing the extra 1 or 2 seconds in order for a runner to be made, or it's just so much space in the box. We're always letting loose. Whenever we're defending, there's always, spaces to run into. We're always a little bit slow, a little bit naive, a little bit lackadaisical, a little bit mediocre, right? Yesterday was the complete opposite. We flipped it. We were everywhere. We were in their faces. From minute 1 to minute 90, aggressive, 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 just constantly in their faces, especially certain individuals. Certain individuals yesterday were just absolutely phenomenal. Machines. Absolute machines. And we completely nullified Tottenham. Even after going 1-0 up. We managed the game beautifully. Maresca was phenomenal in terms of the way that he managed the game from the start to the finish, in terms of the individuals, the setup, the tactics, the subs, everything. But Tottenham Hotspur did not have an answer throughout the game. And they didn't even test us. You know? They weren't good. But they weren't good because we also stopped them in their tracks. Why? Because we showed so much intensity and urgency. And why I'm really hitting this point home is because, like I said, we should be doing this game in, game out. But what I think we do, what I think we have in our team, what I think the issue is when we come up against opponents where on paper we look and we go, yeah, we should win this. I actually think we show a level of complacency. We were talking with Candace yesterday and I asked him in terms of, when you got a young team, should it be showing that sort of inconsistency when it comes to these sort of attributes, like being able to be aggressive and showing that urgency? And he made the point like, no, in fact, that should be an advantage, which is true. We always look at it from the point of lack of experience. How about we flip the script? Let's flip the script and go, hang on. If we're talking urgency, intensity, getting in the opponent's face, mate, we got a bunch of 20, 21, 22, 23-year-olds. You cannot get better for the job in that regard. From 18, 20, 21, 22. Mate, they should be able to run for days. That's just the reality. They're young. Canna's joked. He was like, when I was 18, mate, it was like I couldn't stop running. It's a case of this shouldn't be an issue. You're right. Realistically, yes. This is where I always go back to the point that I've made and I truly believe this. I think it's a mental thing. It's not a physical thing. It's not like we can't do it. We can. But look, yesterday, when we had to, they all showed up. Every single player, Robert Sanchez included, all showed up. Everyone looked phenomenal. Why can't we do that game in, game out? Because this game meant a lot. This game, even on paper, was like, we have to perform. Why don't we go in with that same attitude against everyone else? That is what I want to see. We've proven we can do it. Once again, you see how like when we beat PSG or we went and we beat Liverpool, and I'm like, okay, look, so we can do it. You've proven it. We can actually do it. Well, why don't we do this week in, week out then? This game has done it again. We've proven, not just in terms of our beating a big opponent, no, forget that, but in terms of the levels, the urgency and the intensity and the actual concentration, the focus, the organization, the everything, the discipline, everything was there yesterday. So we can do it. Well, let's do it every single game then. That should be the aim. We're not going to do it every single game. You're going to have the odd game here and there. Absolutely understand. But most games, you should be able to perform at this level, no problem. So getting into the game, especially yesterday, I mean, I want to pick out players like I did in my review, but you couldn't hear me, so let me do it again. There were some players specifically that I thought were absolute machines. I thought everyone played really well. I don't really record a player that just had a stinker. No one did. Like I said, even Sanchez played really well. Even Fofana. Wesley Fofana put in an absolute shift yesterday. And I did not expect that whatsoever because he's been in A&E. Yeah, he's been in the hospital room. He's been just, looking to see if he can walk again, basically at this point. Can he just, get outside? Well, he played yesterday and he was playing like the defender that we had paid 70 million for, that we thought would come in and be our main centre-back. He played like that yesterday. And to be fair, Trev alongside him was just as good. Even in the small nuances of trying to win the foul and, little bit of the dirty side of the game and, falling down when you got to fall down, but not letting anything through, being physical, winning every single duel, everything was there. But Fofana, I thought, was absolute class. But no one had a bad game. There's certain players, though, that just did not have a bad game. They had exemplary games. Marco Correa. What an individual. You, sir, should get a knighthood at this rate. I mean, it's just, he had that entire side locked up. Locked up. Kudusu, I didn't see him yesterday. Why? Because when Cucurella got home and emptied his pockets, Kudus fell out. That was it. Not just him, though. There were other Spurs players that were nullified, and there were some players that actually played well. I'll give you an example. Pedro Porro played well. Didn't do much, though. But you could see he played well. Just every time, though, he had to get that final thing done, shut down, nullified, thank you very much, take the ball off him, cheers, mate. And then he went again, to be fair. Same could be said for Spence on the left-hand side for Tottenham. But we had him nullified. Why? Reece James. Cucurella, Reece James put in clinics yesterday. And Reece James, especially in terms of the leadership and in terms of being able to show his figure, the authority, I thought he put in absolute shift. Reece James was class. There's one player, though. I could talk about everyone else, but there's one player. There's one player. We've had some absolute aces in that position in the past. Makalele. Essien. You can throw in John Obi Mikel there for the role that he had to fulfill. N'Golo Kante. Moises Caicedo, you, sir, are walking the same path. You're not there because you can only get there after your time at Chelsea finishes, right? Or near to that. Once you're fully established, okay, look, this guy's an actual legend of the club now. He's still got work to do there. But you are walking the same path that those players walked before you. Easily. Moises Caicedo was an absolute machine yesterday. A machine. A machine. That was not human. He was superhuman. And for the goal, you see the press that he put on those players to win the ball, to then feed João Pedro to score the first goal. That was not normal. The speed and aggression he was moving at was not normal. That was not human capability. That was something else. I don't know what Caicedo had for breakfast yesterday, but keep having it because it worked. And I hope it's not from the Mudryk substance. But listen, Caicedo was out of this world. Out of this world. And I have to just say, I ain't got the words for it. That was superhuman. He was everywhere. He was everywhere and anywhere that you needed him to be. That was just absolute class. Shutting everyone down. Getting the ball from wherever. In the middle, on the right, on the left, at the back, at the front. He was everywhere. At one point, I mistook him for Gittins because he was on the left wing going past two players. And I'm like, that's Gittins. And Canners next to me was like, no, that's Caicedo. I'm like, what? Then he got fouled. And I'm like, oh my God, there's Caicedo. What? He's a left winger now. He's everywhere. The man did not stop. All the way until the end, you could see there was a challenge near the end where he was just like, just raiding everyone. I'm like, brother, what are you on? Caicedo, honestly, who was it? There was a friend of mine yesterday at the Belgian beer cafe that we were at, and he was like, I wouldn't sell him for $1 billion. I would not. No, sorry, that wasn't. That was afterwards. I know who now. He said I wouldn't sell him for $1 billion. Shout out T-Mac. He's like, I wouldn't sell him for $1 billion. I'm like, I can understand that. He's unsellable. Caicedo is unsellable. Absolute machine. He put in a clinic. Man of the match for me, easily. Even aside from that, Enzo, I thought was fantastic. Very dynamic. Very random midfield, especially on the ball. Beautiful. João Pedro. Now, João Pedro got a goal. Fantastic. Great finish. And I think put himself in position to score maybe a hat-trick yesterday. We could have won 4-0. Gittins, even towards the end, when he came on, beautiful. The control. The runs. The dribbles. Then he missed that chance at the end. Same like João Pedro. I don't expect that. Because João Pedro is someone that I look at and go, okay, look, if I get the ball to you, I expect you to just finish. But the issue with João Pedro is that he doesn't move like a number 9. And even then, he got into positions to score. But his runs and the way that he runs like a 10. He runs to try and get to the edge of the box and just settle there. Whereas a 9 should be able to look for the darting runs to get round the defenders. Whether it's through or whether it's over the top, He's looking for that, for his wingers to be able to notice him, making a run into a space for the ball to be distributed to him. He doesn't run like that. He runs with a little less effort to try and get to the box and then just make himself as a presence in there like a number 10 would. And yesterday at moments that actually worked, weirdly enough. But yeah, as a 9, we've still got to see what we got to do in that regard, because yeah, João Pedro clearly doesn't move like a 9. But yesterday, he still got himself into areas where he got the ball and had chances, and he did bury one beautifully. Great finish. But yeah, we could have scored more, even towards the end. And this is where Maresca, I thought, managed the game really well, because we were constantly on the front foot. Do you see what happens when we just play direct? When we're just forward thinking? Go, 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 go. Mate, Tottenham didn't have an answer. Even when we went 1-0 up, and then they had to start pushing. There was a portion in the second half, they started to have a little bit more of the ball, and they were starting to press. But we defensively were very disciplined and very organised and fantastic yesterday. But on the contrary, whenever we managed to win the ball off them, which wasn't too difficult, if I'm being completely honest. We were always doubling up on their men. We were organised. Defensively was superb. Even the offside trap, fantastic. Set pieces, fantastic. Everyone was there. I'd love to see this every game, please. That was Chelsea. That was Chelsea. Every time we won the ball off them, though, we were an instant threat. Boom, over the top or through one ball, direct, and all of a sudden we're in for a chance. And that is how you defend a 1-0 lead. Nowadays, with the team that we have, we can't just sit back and say, come, invite the pressure. We can't do that. Yesterday was exactly the way that I was hoping we would play week in, week out, when I say that, look, if we're winning, the best way to defend is attack. Yes, you can have them come at you to a point, but you got to be organised, win the ball and send it. That way they've got something to think about and they're on the back foot. Because when that's the case, they can't commit. And if they can't commit, they got less chance to score. We had that in the set pieces. Set pieces, whenever they had a set piece, we were always leaving 3 bodies a little bit further up, which meant that they had to also leave bodies back to defend, which means that they had less bodies in the box. That was something that was done yesterday in the set pieces, and it worked to a T because they didn't have any threat from the set piece whatsoever, and it allowed more space for Rob Sanchez to come and just catch, who I thought was class as well. Fantastic from Rob Sanchez. Disciplined, no shenanigans, straight to the point, caught his ball all the time, went long when he had to, went short when it was safe to. Fantastic. That's what I want to see from Sanchez every game too. Everyone was just on it. Fantastic, superb clinic yesterday. Phenomenal. And if there's anyone else that I can give a shout out to, Garnacho I thought was direct as well and made himself look very dangerous, and he came off, and I know he was a little bit upset at that, but that's fine. That's fine. I'm glad to see that. You want to play 90 minutes? Cool. Fight. You know. But Gittins deserved to come on, and Gittins did well as well, considering his game against Wolves and considering what he actually offered yesterday. Yes, he could have scored that sitter, and he should have scored that sitter. That should have been on target at least, right? So that's the only thing. But apart from that, Pedro Neto worked his socks off and put in an absolute, especially, and this is why he's used, and this is why he stayed on the pitch for as long as he did, because off the ball, he's an absolute nuisance. Off the ball, he's constantly getting in the opponent's face. He's constantly working. He's constantly trying to win the ball back. He's constantly aiding the defense. And on the ball, he's also got strength. He manages to shield himself really well. The only thing we look at Pedro Neto is his actual output. Again, goals and assists. That's something that, yes, there is a conversation there, because when Esteval comes on, he's a much more bigger threat in relation to goals and assists. And I think Esteval also puts himself in situations where he does offer the defensive and the off-the-ball work as well. He does get himself stuck in too, because that's his Brazilian nature kicking in. And that's fantastic to see as well. We got great options on that side. So all in all, I'm really, really happy at that performance yesterday. Now we're into fifth. Liverpool won. Finally, they won the football match. Make sure you're on Shootout to catch our all Premier League reactions tomorrow. Make sure you're there. We'll go over all the games. But Liverpool won, which means we're into fifth. And what I also want to say before I end is the table's going to flip. You see how quickly we managed to find ourselves back to near the top again? It can flip easily. So just like when we were ninth and some people were panicking, going, we're ninth, relax. Now we're fifth. Again, don't get too excited. Relax. This table is so flamboyant and so delicate right now, it can just go 180 at any moment. We just got to win games. That's important. Now, on top of that, the referees were a disgrace. I said this in the review yesterday. You probably didn't hear, but the referees were an absolute disgrace. How is it that Bentancur survived that game? I don't know. That is an absolute despicable. That's a controversy. That's a scandal. How that was not a red card, and then the challenge after that, not a red card as well. He should have got sent off twice. Like, unbelievable. The flipping the suplex, the Fofana in the box, no penalty, no VAR. VAR were asleep yesterday. They didn't exist. Or the referees didn't bother. I don't understand. But that is complete incompetence. Now, if we'd lost, we would have been raving and ranting about that. But we didn't. We won. So I want to make that point before I end, because that was a disgrace. An absolute disgrace of a decision to keep Bentancur on the pitch and allow him to get subbed off. You just give him a yellow for that, which would have been a leg breaker. That's a leg breaker. It's studs, it's high, it's to the leg, there's no ball, it's a red. How that was not even looked at by VAR, if it was and they dismissed it, you should all be fired. All be fired. You don't deserve to work in football for letting a challenge like that go. I love the aggression. Yesterday, Tottenham-Chelsea was fiery, and that's how it should be. I like to see where the players want to start fighting and all that. Cool, absolutely, because it's a derby and it's heated. That's the history of the Tottenham-Chelsea derby. Right, but there's aggression and then there's that. That's just taking the mick. How is it Bentancur survived? I don't know. Absolutely despicable. But what I will say is I thought we showed class. I thought we were determined. I thought we showed strength. We didn't let that faze us. We had pure control up here as well. Tottenham were losing their heads. Thomas Frank tried his absolute utmost to get all the subs he could on, and also get his players to just try and really grind our gears and piss us off, basically. Didn't work, mate. So shout out and well done to the whole team. Beautiful. We're very proud of what Chelsea done yesterday. That was phenomenal. Maresca, kudos to you. You managed the game beautifully as well. And we hope to see this sort of approach week in, week out against everybody. If we show the same intensity and urgency we did yesterday against everyone, we'd beat everyone. And we put up a fight against Arsenal too. I'll tell you that now. But it's about consistency. Can we do it? Well, let's hope. Let me know your thoughts down below. Much appreciated. I hope you enjoyed this slightly longer video. Make sure you're here later on tonight for a double upload. If there is going to be anything else kicking off, we'll find a good topic if there isn't. But if not, it's going to be a news video, so make sure you're here. Much appreciated, people. Have a good one. Look after yourselves. Catch you later. Subscribe, notification bell on. Take care, and peace.